It's the way
Okay.
she presented it.
The August 2019 meeting of the Southampton Village Zoning Board of Appeals is now open. We have one decision, Michael and Sylvia Rutherford, 33 Layton Avenue. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any more than that, Wayne? Is that enough?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we have one withdrawal, Constance Hunter, 170 Pulaski Street. I don't think we need a motion on that. And we have 3 requests for adjournment. 3036, Andrew and Dana Stone. Lifton Green, 270 Ox Pasture. Meredith Joyce Trust, 765 Hill Street. And Community Baptist Church, 16 Raymond Ali Court. They are all requesting a letter of adjournment to September. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Takes care of that. So the first case we're going to hear is Red Maples LLC, 261 Great Plains Road.
Hi, good evening. These are the affidavits. Okay, so my name is Nika Strunk from the law firm of Nika B. Strunk PLLC, and I'm here tonight with the architects Siamak Sami and Quincy Hammond, and our client Marianne Tai is here as well tonight with us. We've been here before, as you know, and I'm just going to reorient you to the property. As you may recall, it's situated. The precise parcel we're talking about is 261 Great Plains Road, which is a flag lot off of Great Plains Road. It's south of Ox Pasture Road, east of Halsey Neck Lane, and north of Great Plains Road. Ms. Tai also owns, she's the beneficial owner of 2 parcels that are located to the north and directly adjoining 261 Great Plains Road. So the blue and the green on this map show the properties of which she is the beneficial owner. And the property at issue, 261 Great Plains Road, is a property of 88,412 square feet. That's a little over 2 acres. It's currently undeveloped with the exception of the remains of the foundation of the Red Maples estate, which was a huge estate that encompassed a large part of this area of the estate section. It was demolished after a fire in 1935. Right now, the property is characterized by massive specimen trees that are original to the estate, and also additional trees that are being installed under the supervision of her landscape architect. Now, as I said, Ms. Tai's home and guest house is on the properties up here that are noted in blue. And her intention for this property, which she acquired relatively recently, is to use it as a dedicated garden space. It's a park-like environment with the trees that are existing and being added to the property, and she wants to enjoy the property as a garden. And in the context of that garden, Siamak Sami has designed a 2-story primary structure that fits within the classical tradition of gardens in the estate section, and it is intended for use by the owner as like a personal retreat within this garden space. Now, we're here tonight for a variance, but before explaining that, I just want to emphasize the degree to which this project complies with virtually all zoning. It complies with all front yard setbacks. It's 115 feet from the front yard. Where 80 is required, we've designated the south side of the parcel as the front yard because it's a flag lot. It complies with side yard setbacks. This structure is set back 70 feet, where 35 is required. It complies with rear yard setbacks. It's 160 feet, where 100 feet is required. It's far less lot coverage than would be allowed, 927 square feet of lot coverage, where 12,956 is allowed. It's far less GFA than is allowed. 680 square feet is proposed, where 9,683 would be allowed. It's totally compliant with the pyramid law, parking, and the only other structure on the property that is proposed is a reflecting pool, which is also completely compliant with all setbacks. The Rayner Group has designed a state-of-the-art new style sanitary system that has already been approved by the health department. So the only way in which the project does not comply with zoning is that it is smaller than the minimum floor area requirements under section 116-17 of the village code. And in this case, for a property of this size, the code would require 1,500 square feet for a first floor and 900 square feet for a second floor. And for the owner's purposes, for what she intends to use this structure for, that is just far more than she desires or needs. So the point of this application is that there's really no need for it would be wasteful and superfluous and unnecessary to require her to build such a large structure, when really what she needs is something much smaller. Although it will not be in any sense substandard, it will be exquisitely designed and exquisitely, perfectly built to the highest standards. So, as I think I mentioned in the past, this is really the opposite type of variance that you're normally asked for. Instead of asking to exceed some maximum, we're asking for a lesser amount than is required. And so in order to do your job as the Zoning Board of Appeals, you need to balance the benefit to the applicant against any detriment to the public health, safety, and welfare. And that is spoken to by the preamble to the minimum residential floor area statute in your own code, which has a statement of purpose that says the requirements contained in this section are designed to promote and protect the public health, to prevent overcrowded living conditions, to guard against the development of substandard neighborhoods, to conserve established property values, and to contribute to the general welfare. So if you take these one by one, the public health, there's absolutely no public health issues here whatsoever, because the New York State building code has occupancy requirements. It requires for living rooms a minimum of 120 square feet, and for bedrooms a minimum of 70 square feet. We're far greater than that by several multiples in this case. So that is the foundation in this state of overcrowding regulations, and we're way exceeding them. This building will be totally safe and perfectly compliant with building code. To guard against, to prevent overcrowded living conditions, that's not going to be an issue. In fact, this property, frankly, this structure is not going to be used as a residence. It's going to be used as really a personal retreat for the owner to enjoy her gardens and to have a respite from the rest of her property and everything else going on there. So,
Mika, can I interrupt you for a second?
Of course.
So this is, you already made this case once.
I know.
And this is a continuation of that. So I'm just wondering if you could explain what the difference between this structure and the structure you had before the board just recently.
They're very similar.
Yeah.
The reason yes.
It's sort of, you've done this presentation before. I'm not trying to cut you off, but I think it would.
I know the board sees a lot of presentations, so that's the only reason I was going through it again. But the difference is, and CIAMAC will speak to this, that the design has been tweaked or improved, made better in terms of proportion, and as a result, the the first floor is 340 square feet. Each floor is now 340 square feet. So it's a total of 680 square feet, whereas previously it had been 860 square feet.
So it's smaller.
It's smaller, yes. So, but in terms of its design, in terms of its use, in terms of its compliance with building code, it has not changed in one bit. So, and I do not want to waste your time and repeat anything that you already know, but I do want to, because we have renoticed the application and it is new, it just complete this discussion of the purposes of the statute, which is to guard against the development of substandard neighborhoods. And I think you may recall we had quite an extensive discussion about this before, that this structure is going to be so well screened. First of all, it's not substandard in any way because of its design, which is very beautiful, but it's also fully screened. It's not visible from the street. It's not visible from any neighboring parcel except Ms. Ty's parcel, probably to the north, may be able to see it. But the layers of mature trees are so thick that it's absolutely completely private. And then to conserve established property values and to contribute to the general welfare. Certainly, I think every neighbor the response of the neighbors has been only positive. Everyone is happy to be living next to such an extraordinarily beautiful garden with a very small jewel-like structure within it. It has no adverse impact whatsoever on the character of the community or the property values in this area. So with that, I'd like to have Quincy Hammond once
Nika,
again.
just before, I just
Yes.
want, so there's a letter dated July 31st from you, and
Yes.
then there's one August 1st?
Oh, the
They
August
appear to be
1st
the same?
I had a typo in terms of the,
Oh, okay.
just August 1st.
And then you recently submitted, August 22nd, just the site plan, so.
Yes.
Just for the record, we're looking at CMAX plans dated July 31st, 2019.
Is that right? I had submitted.
That's what was attached to the August 1st letter.
Okay, but CMAC, I believe, submitted revised plans, but they are dated July 31st. Okay.
Okay.
So-
Just want to make sure we have reference to which plans.
Okay.
And then the recent survey
Yes.
is last dated August 8th.
And I wanted to also just remind the board that I actually went back and reviewed our video from the last time we were here, and the board's concerns had been about whether there could be additional accessory structures put on this parcel that could potentially be out of scale or out of scope with the primary structure. And as I explained in a letter to council, which still stands, the owner is happy to put a covenant on this parcel that there will be no additional accessory structures added, other than those that are shown on here, except for one possibility, because it's a garden, she may wish to add a gazebo at some point in the future, but that would be no more than 250 square feet. And it's also understood, I think this is actually really code, but the other concern was that this could potentially become an accessory to some other bigger primary structure, and then it would not conform as an accessory because it would not meet the accessory height restrictions. That also is not not something that we're going to do whatsoever at this time. It's I think code requires, and we certainly understand that if there were to be, if the owner or a future owner were to desire to have a larger house, it would either have to be, this house would either have to be adapted to meet the minimums floor area requirements under zoning, or it would have to be torn down and a larger structure built. And no other, what we are willing to covenant is that no additional accessory structures would be built unless and until the property, the structure was brought into compliance with the minimum floor area requirements of zoning. So, so all of those concessions are still part of this. And if the board has any questions of me, I'll be happy to answer.
One thing, does your notice say the second floor is 357 square feet?
That is old plans. It's 340 square feet. Both floors are same size.
The current notice says 340?
I think that you're looking at the old plans.
I may be looking at the old one, that's
But
what.
the notice,
I have here.
I have to go dig it out of my file, the notice.
But it's definitely 340 on the second
340.
floor.
It's 340,
340
yeah.
and 340.
It's on the notice too, it says 340.
It does? Okay, good.
The current, okay, so the old one was 357.
For the first floor.
No, I'm talking about the second
The
floor.
second floor, it says.
Right, it says
But that's the
357.
original notice, I believe. That's the
Original
first
notice
notice.
was 357, correct? yes.
Okay.
That's right.
They don't have to renotice it. And then it just,
Yes.
the first floor elevation,
Well, let's have Mr.
CMAC,
Sammy come in
sure.
and speak to you about that, okay?
Good afternoon, CMX Sami, architect representing Mary Ann Ty in this project. Mark,
Speak a little louder for our recording,
Yes.
please.
yeah, just if you speak to the first floor elevation, it looks like the first floor elevation is 26 feet.
first floor.
I'm looking at the survey.
Maybe I can actually help with that.
Basically, this structure is being built on the platform that used to house the original estate that was burned down back in time. And this foundation and this platform is pre-existing. We are building on top of that, basically. This is, we have mature trees growing on this platform, dating back at least 60, 70 years where the house burned down. So actually further, when was it?
1905 is
1905 is when the house burned. So this is the platform dating back to that date.
So what's the height of the building,
The height of the building, it's 35 feet from the top of that platform.
and how tall is the top of the platform?
Platform is basically 24 is the base of it, and the top of it is 27, 3 feet.
So what about the rest of the property? In other words, is this elevated? So are we talking about 24 feet plus 35? You're talking about 50, almost 60 feet in the air?
Basically, more than 80% of the property is on this platform. The estate was a much larger estate. The platform does not conform to the setbacks that we have today. It's basically natural. We consider that basically natural grade with the mature trees growing on that platform.
Okay, so it's not as if this is a rise, this is all
No.
the same level on the
As I
property.
said, the remnants of the retaining wall occasionally showing themselves, but this is basically the natural grade.
From the basic natural grade, you're 35 feet.
Correct.
This question might have come up before, but it's been a long time. The reflecting pool, is it going to have a filtering system or light and all of that?
Yes.
Because you don't show the location of that, it's a conforming location on the property, I don't think.
We do not show that, but I certainly can.
We are conforming to setbacks for pool
I
equipment.
know
for
the
sure.
pool was, but
Yes.
so I want to make sure the equipment also.
Equipment as well, of course. As far as where that location would be, this being only, of course.
Well, sometimes they put a structure around it, sometimes they bury it, so, so just, it's a garden, I'm sure you're not going to want it visible, so.
Correct.
Right. But because it is mostly garden, we'll have a lot of opportunities for
Landscape it out?
planting around it. I don't know if you're interested in seeing the, I'm Quincy Hammond, the landscape architect. This is you can see here the existing platform, how the old wall from the old property. This is the stairs, old stairs that came down. And so you can see the the differentiation. And that continues around 3 sides, 3.5 sides.
So you can put it on the table and the cameras will get in the center of the table. Do you want to submit those pictures for the record?
Yes, we can do that. And this basically is a collection of both the existing planting and also the past month and a half too, we've been planting mature trees on this property continuously, something to the extent of about 60.
We've planted 61 trees this year, and we are planning to plant an additional 67 trees next year. So it really is about the trees here. And of course, we've kept all of the existing old trees.
Which are more than 100 years old. A good portion of them are sitting on this plateau.
Anything else? Wayne?
I have no questions.
This doesn't concern you, does it?
It doesn't.
Is there anyone out in the audience who'd like to be heard to this application? No.
Actually, I have one question for Nika. Did you mention that you had health department approval?
We do. I think we do.
Have it already?
I think we do, yes.
Yes.
If you do have
Close
that,
this for
that'd be
decision?
helpful.
I can put that into the file. Be happy to.
This also conforms to the latest health department requirements for septic systems.
And we should
And it's
close
an
this
IA
decision, right?
It's IA
Yes.
system, correct?
Yeah, you can
Close.
close it for a decision.
Can I have a motion to close this for decision?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
On the application number 3047, Parjad Yungvanovich, 169 Elm Street. He's not here, so he didn't hear me when I messed up his name, right?
Well, hello, my name is Yu Liu. I'm the architect for this project. Last time when we had the work session, the board asked me to submit the new survey, which I did, and also the shed elevations and floor plans, including the crawl space, which I also submitted. So that's the items that was put in to the file.
So Lucy, could you just, as we hear a lot of cases, go back and describe the relief that you're now asking
Okay.
for in light of the revised information? And tell us, starting with what's existing, because that was part of the questions the board asked, and you didn't since submitted information as to what exists as far as the CO, and particularly the shed was a focus. So maybe you can tell us what you submitted and now what your request is, because I believe you've modified the structures.
Last time, the board requested, this is a survey of the existing property. We have a main structure here, and we have the existing shed, and we have an existing garage. And I have obtained the CO, so these two structures, the garage and the shed, are both pre-existing non-conforming, but they all have CO. And what we want to do is we want to move the garage to the back, and so we can open up the yard. And the relief we're seeking is a 5-foot from the northerly property line. And we do have a support letter from the neighbor on the north side, just so it has a ease to make the turn to go into the garage. And we're going to demolish the existing shed, which is 271 square foot, and build a smaller shed, which is 8 by 10. And that will be mostly used for landscaping, garden storage, and pool equipment. And I guess this is the picture of the existing shed. I guess that's what we do, right?
So part of the question we saw in the papers was that shed somehow grew from where its pre-existing situation, and so you're going back to what was the original configuration of 8 by 10, but you're also relocating that from what is just behind the house to now further to the west, but you're maintaining the same non-conforming setback?
Correct. I did go to the building department, and Jackie searched high and low, and she couldn't find any documents for this shed, so we don't know at what point that it become bigger than the previous non-conforming, the variance permitted. And so all she can provide with me is a CO when the homeowner purchased this property. And that's for the entire house, entire property.
So your relief is to relocate the shed still at a setback of 2.9 feet?
2.6 feet.
2.6 feet, and for relief to allow the garage at 5 feet where 10 feet is required.
Yes, correct.
The shed will be smaller now than it used to be.
Yeah, much smaller.
8 by
8 by
10.
10.
8 by
Where
10.
before,
That it was
enlarged
200.
at least once, maybe
It was
twice.
270 square foot. I measured it. It was 270 square foot. Now it's 80.
And you're also asking for other relief for the expansion of the house,
No.
pyramid?
Pyramid relief. yeah.
Pyramid. We have that code. In the code is written that as long as the addition does not exceed the existing roof height and does not exceed the maximum height allowed, we don't need pyramid. I did talk to the building inspector again.
Well, you don't need that relief.
Well, we need that in writing.
I did ask him. I don't know if he did it or not. I asked
Because
him.
your original application and your notice was for pyramid relief.
And the garage, yes.
Yes.
I did ask him, and he said, I don't know whether he's going to do it or not. He just said, well, it's the law. That's what he said. I did ask him and also
So
asked
you're
Jackie
asking
to
us
remind
to interpret that section and determine whether or not you need relief, and in the alternative, if you do need relief, you're asking for the relief.
If you could make the judgment, I guess that will be helpful.
I think that's what you should ask for, because your original application asks for a variance, but what you're saying is there's a section of the code that you may not need relief under, and you want us to look at that and determine whether or not that requires you to get relief or not. And if it doesn't, then you're fine. If it does, you still need the variance, and so we'd like to hear a little bit about what you're asking for, so that if you do have to consider the variance, that you've at least presented your case.
112.4 cubic feet.
The design has changed, so I didn't calculate, what it is now, and we're going to change even more. Will be even smaller, and
It changed since when you submitted the application?
yeah, because the ARB people requested the revisions, so we don't have pyramid relief. We don't have pyramid violation on the south side at all. It's all on the north side. And then they asked us to further reduce the house. It would be smaller. And basically, the building department told me that They don't need a variance for that. I submitted the original application by error.
I think just to clear that up, since your application states otherwise, if you have revisions, at least submit those revised plans, and if the building department says you don't need relief, we would at least like to have that in the record.
You mean the plan, or you need still
Both.
need the letter?
I would suggest both, yes.
Okay, I'll ask him again, but I really don't know if he will really jump on it or not. I did ask multiple times, and then I asked Jackie to remind him.
Did you submit a letter with a copy of the plan to the building inspector?
Yeah, I went through the plan with him on the counter.
Did you submit a letter to the building inspector asking him to determine whether you need relief or not?
No, I didn't write a letter.
That's my suggestion, you do that so that there's at least a record. I would suggest you give us a copy of that with the new plan so that we could look at it and not have to have you keep coming back. That's all I'm trying to get at, is let's get it all in front of us and so we can determine once and for all whether you need relief or don't need relief. And if you did need relief, we could at least understand what you're asking for. So what you're saying is your plan has been revised since the original plan.
Yeah, but it is.
So we'd like
it
to
is
see that
still
revised
under-
plan, and it may be that you don't need relief at all. So
But the
It'd be
building
good for
inspector
us to
says
know
that
that,
these
so you don't
plans
have-
dated on this date will not require pyramid relief, and it would be approved for permit. Submit that, so that's no longer a part of this application.
Okay. So,
Because right now, you're asking for pyramid relief, so we don't want to vote and grant pyramid relief when there is no pyramid relief needed. It would be, we just want to get everything in proper order.
okay.
So in other words, you're changing your application, the original application from what it was, and we need to have that documented. You understand that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm trying to think like how I'm going to get that letter. I can only
You could
guarantee.
prepare the letter and bring it in and ask them to sign it. Ask them if it's all right.
Okay, I'll do that.
He can review the plan, date the plans and date, that these plans will not require pyramid relief.
Okay, is that the only item I need to provide for the next meeting?
Say something about the new plans?
unless the board has any other questions, that's the only issue I see. I mean, it appears the garage issue and the shed issue are straightforward, but this is according
If you got the information in by the work session, we could close it for decision, right?
correct,
And then,
subject to written
right,
submissions.
get that in for us, and in 2 weeks, there'll be a work session. Get that information to the work session, and we can have your decision for you at the next meeting.
Okay,
It'll give him a chance to review it and then write the decision, and we can approve it.
okay, I'll write a letter for Chris and chase him down.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So we'll leave it open if the time.
All you need to see if anybody
Uh,
wants to comment.
Yeah, that's coming. Man, it's getting ahead of me.
Yeah, really, settle down.
Close it for decision, subject to that.
Is there anyone from the audience who'd like to refer to this application? Nobody. I knew that. All right, so we need a motion. We'll close this, subject to what you give us at the work session,
Okay.
which is, I think, September 26, 27, subtract 9, September 18th, I think. Okay?
Yep, thank you so much.
17th.
Is it 17th? 17th of September.
Okay.
Now we need a motion to close this subject to
So
that.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
the application of case number 3048640 Ox Pasture LLC, 640 Ox Pasture Road.
Good evening, Lisa Poyer with InterScience on behalf of the applicant. Just setting out revised landscaping plans and surveys that were submitted for the work session last month. This was an application for a modification request to the prior wetland permit that was issued for the property. The request for modification consisted of reorienting the direction of the proposed garage, which was previously approved, adjustments to the driveway and the circulation on the property, as well as an adjustment to some sidewalks in front of the house and the tennis court. The applicant is also requesting a additional wetland relief for 2 retaining walls. One is located right here between the house and the tennis court, and the other retaining wall is located near the swimming pool. The request for the retaining wall near the swimming pool was due to saving some trees that were located in this area, which are also shown on the landscaping plan. Over here, you've got a cedars trees, a black cherry trees. There's a difference in grade, and in order to maintain those trees, the applicants requested to install a retaining wall in that area. It ranges anywhere from about 1.5 feet to 3 feet, just depending upon the grade over there. The board had asked at the last meeting, there used to be a retaining wall located in this area. They're no longer proposing that due to the change in the approach of the driveway to the new garage location. So that's been removed from both the survey as well as the landscaping plan. The landscaping plan was updated to show all of the upland improvements with regards to the change in the orientation of the garage as well as the site circulation. So those changes were made. The survey shows the 2 retaining walls as well as their cross-sectional details, which are shown here. The board had questioned whether additional fill will be necessary on the site. A letter was submitted by Bulgin and Associates indicating that approximately 40 cubic yards will be used on the site, just as general grading, just to help finish grade the site. That letter was also submitted. It was from Bulgin and Associates, dated August 8th, 2019. And then the last request was to have a new test hole installed over by the garage and the parking area. That test hole was installed. It showed groundwater at elevation 0.5. And when we had done the original calculations, we had estimated groundwater at elevation 1.1. So the new test hole works with the original highest expected groundwater elevation for the drainage for the tennis court. So if the board has any additional questions, or if Chick or Wayne have questions, I'm here to answer them.
Yeah, I'm going through the plans
Problem.
of the barn that you want to move. And I didn't go inside the barn. I saw it from the outside.
The garage.
Yeah, the garage.
Okay.
I call it barn or whatever.
Okay.
But it doesn't state on the plan if this is existing conditions or not. I don't know. A plan of the existing conditions inside the barn. What's there now? Is it,
Is that this application?
I don't know if this is it. It doesn't state it on here. It doesn't say existing.
This was a proposed detached garage.
That's different.
I think that's,
40 Ox Pasture?
I think that's a different application.
Oh, do I have one page?
Yeah,
Everyone
yeah.
open?
That's different.
Right question, wrong.
That's okay.
Hold that thought, Dan.
I'm one case ahead of you.
That's okay.
My
No problem.
file was out of order.
I know, I was confused.
Anything else? Mark, everything?
Nope, you got check anything? Check.
Chick?
We like trees.
We like trees.
I think Lisa went through each of the items that were discussed at the last meeting. One thing that is notable is that this had a prior permit. We had talked about this previously, and the plans were revised to cross-reference the original landscape plan. So that is still in effect from the original permit. We'll reflect that if the board wishes to go ahead for the next meeting in the permit. The test hole worked out, retaining the trees. We had a question about that, but that's been clarified. The wall that's being removed was closer to the wetlands for the most part than the one between the house and the proposed tennis court and the one at the south property line. And the garage configuration and new driveway is a little bit more advantageous in terms of wetlands. So I think everything that I had asked about was has been addressed in the submissions. I think we got the second letter the day after work session, and I wasn't able to prepare a draft permit for tonight, but I have no further questions, so we can certainly, if the board wants, have something ready for the next meeting.
Wayne, is there any?
No question.
Is there anyone from the public would like to hear to this application? We can close it.
For decision?
May I have a motion to close this application for decision? All in favor?
Good night, thank you.
This takes us down to the new cases. First one being BLC Hillside Investments LLC, 132 South Main Street.
It's not there, yeah. I got it. Should we send it on?
Do the other stuff.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Timothy S. McCully, 41 Meeting House Lane, Southampton, for the applicant. I have here Drew Craven, who is the architect, to answer any questions, and being clairvoyant, I already know what one of the questions is going to be. The subject property is known as 132 South Main Street. It was purchased by this applicant in 2018. It's one of two lots under common control, located in the 12.5 zoning district. The other lot is a flag lot on the east. It was originally one large lot, and the house that's on the property was an original 1880s house, so it's been reconfigured from time to time since then. But in 2007, the then owner applied to the planning board and was granted a subdivision. And in 2018, that same owner applied to the planning board and Suffolk County Department of Health Services to allow a lot line modification, which was approved. The lot line modification resulted in a portion of the flag lot being transferred to and added to the property to the east, which fronts on Toilsome Lane. I want to hand up for the board, so you'll see what happened on that, copies of that lot line modification.
Wait a minute, they took part of the flag lot and added it onto this lot, or they added it to somewhere else?
No, what happened was, the flag lot was large. They took an easterly portion of that and gave it to the property to the east, which fronts on Toilsome Lane.
Okay. Is that their property, or does it belong to somebody else?
No, that belongs to somebody else.
Tim, did you just give us a copy of the original subdivision map?
I don't know if I brought that, but I thought you would have that. I may have one copy. I can submit that later.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a few things that we all have some questions on, so I think it would be good to have the original subdivision map and any conditions, covenants, restrictions, otherwise that went with that.
I was going to get to the covenants and restrictions. Okay.
And then this is the lot line modification,
That happened last year.
and this is modifying
Yep.
lot lines between the subject lot or the lot to the rear?
It was to the lot to the rear.
So the lot line modification really doesn't affect this property at all?
Well, there's a covenant that goes with it then afterwards, too, so.
Okay.
I have a couple of sort of copies if you want them now, and I'll replace it with the final map if you want these. I don't have enough copies, though, I didn't bring that. And it only affects this lot in terms of what we're proposing going forward. So after that subdivision was granted in 2018, the property winds up with 129,730 square feet. Lot 1, which is the subject lot, contains 73,502 square feet, and the back lot, the flag lot, contains 47,228 square feet. At the present time, the tennis court straddles the two lots, and the garage, which has a C of O, is straddling the lot line in terms of being in the flagpole for the flag lot, the access road. Those are allowed to remain based upon the declarations and covenants that the planning board imposed on these properties when they allowed the subdivision. So the subject lot is improved with a dwelling, a garage, barn, pool, and pool house. And the existing structures have a C of O, which was issued last year, number 14825. I'm going to hand that up so the record is complete. So the flag lot in this scenario is itself vacant, and only the tennis court, or part of the tennis court, is on that lot. The variances which the applicant is requesting are minimal, I believe. The two variances needed, 11611.1, to allow the garage to be moved from its present location here back fully onto Lot 1, or the subject property, although it will not meet the...
Part of it would be in the flag road, is that correct?
Not once we move it.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But
It
if
is
you left
now.
it there, it is in the flag road.
Now it is, and we propose to move it out
Right.
of there, but we don't propose to meet the total 30-foot setback that's required. In the advertising, there was a code section mentioned, 11617B, which had to do size of the dwelling, which is the kind of case that Nika Strunk had presented before. I don't think there's no living quarters being proposed in anything but the dwelling, so I don't think that's a necessary variance.
Say that again?
We meet all of the specifications of 11617B for all of what we're proposing, so I don't know why that was advertised that way. The only thing I can imagine is one of the surveys that was in the file prior called out the garage as a carriage house. I had that taken off because we're not putting any living quarters in that garage. And I think that was just a carryover from ancient clarifications for what they would call a carriage house in the old days.
So what about these plans here?
What about it?
So what you're saying, Tim, is that the notice isn't necessarily correct.
I just think it has more in it than we need.
So what section of the code are you asking for relief from?
116.11.1, which is setbacks.
It's not in the notice, but
I believe, well, I think they described it in the notice, correct?
no. It's just as, I'm just looking at it right now, and it's, as you just mentioned, it's section 116.17B, minimum floor area.
Yeah. But there's also
It
two
does
other
talk
things.
about, doesn't reference the sections, but it does talk about the relief from the
Yeah.
side yard, so.
I think that's satisfactory.
So the existing garage now has that sort of kitchen area, utility bathroom, and the storage that's in there now?
No, there's not, that garage right now is just a full garage, empty garage.
Okay, with empty storage above.
Right, okay, the architect will explain to you the reasons for, there's a half bath in there, and then an
Half
access.
bath in there now?
No, in the proposal.
Okay.
Nothing is in that garage is completely just empty space.
So I think the question we're asking is, isn't that a change of use?
I don't think I wouldn't consider it a change of
You have
use.
an empty building, basically.
But we're adding a bathroom, but we're not changing the use. It's still a garage, but it has a bathroom in it.
But it says, in the plans, if I'm reading this, it says playroom, utility room, bathroom,
Yeah.
small area that's a garage.
And there's two garages on
And the
the
utility room looks like it has a sink, maybe a refrigerator, it looks like a small kitchen, so,
Just has a sink in there and a half bath. And there's a laundry and dryer, but that's only accessible from the side or the back side of the garage.
It doesn't look like an open space anymore. You have
There's two
demising
sinks.
walls, and you have a small garage area, you have a playroom, you have utility storage, you have a utility bath, and you have a second floor. It looks like a substantial change in use.
Well, what makes it a substantial change in the use? The bathroom?
And the playroom.
and the two looks like, there's two sinks that look like they're both kitchens, or,
I'll let the architect address that.
Tim,
But-
I just want to go back to the subdivision. You mentioned something about the conditions or restrictions. Or is there a condition, obviously, was this board gave relief to allow the subdivision with these accessory structures straddling lines? Or
Sorry?
did the zoning board give relief previously to allow these structures to straddle property lines?
Not to my knowledge. If the planning board did that on their own, I, of course, wasn't involved at all in it.
Okay, so if they did that, and you mentioned covenants and restrictions, did they say that the rear lot couldn't be built on or even sold unless and until these structures were relocated and made to conform?
The back lot,
Yeah, that's what I'm
but
saying.
we're not talking about the back lot, we're talking about the front lot.
I know, but wasn't the back lot part of the subdivision?
Yes, but in 2007, they were very specific. And I'm going to hand up a package for the board. I have a package. This is all of the covenants and all of the planning board resolutions affecting the 2007 subdivision and the 2018 lot line modification, so that you'll have the wording. But in 2007, what they said was, no permits could be issued for anything by the building department unless these buildings were made to conform.
Both
to zoning.
lots?
Pardon me?
On both lots?
On both lots. However, when they did the 2018 lot line modification, they amended that and said that we could do a building permit on the front lot, but if they did anything on the back lot, or we lost the common ownership of the two lots, and by that I mean under the same control. Because we have two different names, single and separate, but they're all under common control. And as long as we maintain that, we can make the application that we're making tonight. So,
So
basic,
can you represent right now that the rear lot is still under the same ownership and control?
I do, and I'll give you whatever proof you need.
Yeah, I had on my list for you to submit the deeds.
The deeds?
Yeah.
I have the deeds.
And Tim, I'm looking at the survey that was just submitted August 20th. It says proposed property line.
What says, oh, okay, well, I was getting to that, okay, 'cause that's part of my presentation. You're jumping on me, but,
Sorry.
you know, I will submit the deeds. I think I left them in the office, but they are under common control.
The two lots are.
The two lots are under common control.
And while you're talking about deeds, I didn't see an owner's endorsement or any disclosures from the owner.
Oh, they were submitted because I think we brought that up when we, I didn't make this application. I'm
I
just
know, we
in
see it, we
afterwards.
see the architect, Benjamin Smith, signed the application as agent for the owner, but we didn't see any agent letter or owner's endorsement. And I see Mr. Smith signed a disclosure form, that's great, but we need the owner to sign the
I
disclosure form.
think the owner did sign one.
So I didn't see it, but if it's
Okay.
in the,
I did.
let's just make sure it's in the record.
I did it, but I'll make sure it's added to the record so that everything is up to date, and I will give you the deeds on the property. So, getting back to your question now, before, we have an application, or the applicant has an application pending before the planning board. We had a work session in July, and we have another work session scheduled September 3rd. What we're asking for is to move the lot line westerly. So we would wind up with the lots being, let me just refer to, so I get the numbers right here. I just want to make sure I give you the right numbers here. So what we're going to do is move that line, or hopefully get permission from the planning board to move that lot line westerly. The tennis court will then be fully on the back lot, and the reduction in the size of lot, the subject lot, will equate to the proposals being in conformity totally with zoning, because the setbacks will then be reduced from 30 to 20. So everything we're proposing will then become conforming. And that's the ultimate goal, to do that.
And you don't need relief then, right?
Yeah, but we're down, we could be a year and a half into the subdivision, and we don't want to wait on that.
You're taking this lot line here and moving it this direction?
I'm going to give you a copy of it so you can see.
The tennis court will be entirely on the back lot.
Yeah, but it's not going
Not a
to be
principal.
conforming, it's going to be right on the lot line.
Pardon me?
No, it's
You're
going to have to
move
be
it so that
conforming.
it's totally on the tennis court, but it's still going to be very close to the lot line.
Well, it's going to be conforming in the front lot, not the back lot.
Yeah, the back lot is, the tennis court is going to be where it is, okay? I'm not representing that the tennis court itself will meet all the setbacks, but everything on the
Right.
developed lot will then meet. And we wouldn't have to be here, but we don't know that you have to look at this as if it's not going to happen,
Right,
because we
okay.
don't know what's going to happen.
Except for Tim, you're also asking for relief for 2 pool cabanas?
Yes, yeah, the two, beside the garage, the two pool, there's 2 pool cabanas there now. And we're just going to reorient them take the pool, which is 15 feet from the side yard, and move that to a conforming location. And then, in fact, when we moved the pool house, the nonconformity would be reduced from 184 square feet to 125 square feet. And the garage, the nonconformity will get reduced from 1,525 square feet to 348 square feet.
So the pool right now does not meet the setback.
No, it doesn't, but it will. We're not.
It will.
We're proposing the pool won't, and there's a small addition onto the main dwelling, and that, neither one of those need any
The
variance.
pool will then be east-west rather than north-south.
Yes, correct. And as far, for the record, the architect has put together a comparison of existing, proposed, both as to square footage, lot coverage, et cetera, so you'll have that for the record. I'll hand that up.
Is the structure, you had mentioned the house was from somewhere around 1880?
I researched the historic inventory sheets. Yes.
So, I mean,
But not in the configuration it is now. It's been changed. There were permits for that.
yeah, what about the barn? Was that,
Okay, now, the barn, what happened there, the barn was deteriorated. It was demolished. The original carriage house barn, whatever you want to call it, and the new building was built here, and we have a C of O for that.
do you know when this new barn was built?
88, I believe.
1888 or 19?
No, 1988.
And that's what we have the C of O for? Do we have that C of O?
I just handed it to you.
Yeah, we just got the C of O.
Oh, this, okay.
Yeah, but let me look at my records here. I should have it someplace. The barn was demolished, I believe, in 1988, and the new one received a C of O number 5372.
And that's referenced on the C of O as the detached garage with slab?
Yes.
So in 1988, were there floor plans and elevations of that
There
proposed
were,
barn?
yes.
Do you have a copy of those for the
I
record?
have them in the office. It's, when they got copied from the thumb drive, they wound up being like bigger than the survey, so I want to reduce them for you so that they're manageable.
Then I see that the two little pool cabanas are the ones that need pretty much total relief.
No, they only need, well, they need 10 feet of relief. Now, they're going to be 20 feet instead of 30, but they will conform if we get our lot line modification. And the other ones are still a little bit non-conforming as well. Actually, we're going to reduce the non-conformity. It's just going to stick over on the back a little bit.
How are they going to conform? Aren't you asking for a setback from the south line?
But they'll meet the 20-foot setback.
But you said that 30 feet was required.
30 feet is what is required now. So we're here for variances to the 20 feet and for the 9 feet on the garage. But if we get the lot line modification, all of that goes away.
They're both conformed then.
Then they'll all
The large will
conform.
conform.
No, I don't see how the
How
pool,
that happens?
the cabanas are, you're asking for the setback to 20 feet from the south line where 30 feet is required there. That has nothing to do with you moving the line from the east.
Yes, but what happens is, under the code, I think I'm right, under the code, when you reduce.
By shrinking the lot size?
You shrink the lot, then you come into a different coverage and a different setback. That's where,
I don't think so.
that's what we're trying to accomplish. So
No, I thought it was-
finally, if we're,
It's the greater of, I think, there's property size or the zoning district. But anyway, it's just something we need to research. But like you said, we can't assume that you're going to have a lot line
you
modification.
cannot do that. I don't want you to do that. It wouldn't be proper, number one. And number two, I'm here for the variances because we wanted the construction and the moving the garage, et cetera, to take place, the planning board may not approve it, the health department may not approve that lot line modification. I think they will, but I can't guarantee that, so that's why I'm here.
How did you end up with a tennis court that straddles two properties?
That was way before me. The tennis court was built, there was an original tennis court, and then from looking at the records, I found that in 1983 or so, they went for a new tennis court. They demolished the old one and put a new one in, but they didn't get a C of O. I'm looking, the tennis court got C of O number 4292, and I think that was in 1988 too, and I'm suspecting that the tennis court was built, the permit was never closed, and when they went for the garage, that's when it was discovered and they got it a C of O for the tennis court.
But now the tennis court is located on a separate parcel.
Yes, it
No
is.
principal structure.
It wasn't at that time.
Right, but you subdivide it, it's in separate names, and and the lot line modification makes it even more so that it'll be on a separate parcel.
It's not on a separate parcel. The subdivision.
It
here.
straddles both lines, right?
Yeah, but this was the subdivision taking this out, taking this lot out, not this. This is still one parcel, I believe.
No.
No, it's two parcels. It was two parcels in 2007. And then in 2018, we got the lot line modification modifying that subdivision. Oh, I say we, I didn't. Yeah, the prior owner did.
I don't believe in my file I have any survey that shows separate surveys for Lot 1 and for, what are we calling the lot that borders on South Main Street?
Well, that would be Lot 1 under the subdivision.
So that is Lot 1.
And the one that's called Lot 1 on the plan here is actually Lot 2?
I think so.
So in your package with the covenants is a copy of the original subdivision map?
Yeah,
The original subdivision map with the covenants.
it's in there, yep.
Yeah. At that time, when they did the subdivision in 2007, there was no tennis court.
When in 2007?
That's what it appears
It
on
has to
this.
be, because it was 1980, I don't know.
I don't
But the
see,
tennis court, I think, is...
your eyes may be better than mine.
I agree, it's not shown there, but I have a C of O from 1988. And the tennis court is definitely there.
Did they take it out in 2007?
No. Well, I'm saying no. I'm assuming no. I wasn't on the property at the time, but I will investigate that for you.
Yeah, I think we need to go there because this board just, considered another application where an accessory structure is on a lot without a principal. And either way, straddling the line or with the lot line modification, a tennis court is on its own without a principal structure.
Right. But it's mentioned, the tennis court is mentioned in the declaration. I believe, anyway, hang on a second.
Where's the subdivision map? Is that one?
Well, this seems like before the subdivision.
Fine, what package is that in?
And
Well,
then
that's
they
easily
just passed around.
verifiable.
so it has this
We
as
can
the
get an
cover
aerial.
Oh, okay.
With the resolution.
And we'll see if it's there.
Well, let's just get the history of that, and if it's something, I mean, again, it's existing, it's also something this board could address in relief, similar to the other applications you've had, where it seems to be consistent with what the covenant is so long as you keep it in the same ownership and
Yep.
control and so on and so forth. It can't be sold separately without either the tennis court being removed or principal structure being erected.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, no, that map's not in my package.
So that might be some relief you need to ask for.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just to be clear, all you're asking for now is relief for the 2 pool houses and the garage,
Correct,
30 to 20.
correct. And bringing everything off of the lot except the tennis court, bringing the garage off where it straddles the line. And I'll have to look at the tennis court. I mean, I didn't see what you saw, that it wasn't on the
The
subdivision.
tennis court will remain straddling the line
Until we get
when
that.
and if you get the lot line modification.
Correct. But I better look more closely at the history, and I'll look at some aerials and see if that tennis court came and went. I was under the impression that it was the one that had the C of O in '88. And I believe in the documents it's mentioned by the planning board, but I'll have to refresh my recollection on that.
Tim, I'm looking at the lot line modification map, and it shows the swimming pool existing 15.5 feet from the south line, and then
Right.
there's a pool house, which appears to be not too much greater than that. So it appears that's an existing pool house in a non-conforming location.
Correct, and we're going to actually reduce this amount of square footage with the new one as opposed to the old one.
So I would just find out what that setback is, and it's probably consistent with what you're proposing, at least for one of them, close to 20 feet now. So you're really not asking for too much in that regard. You're just then really asking for the second pool house to be relocated from the north part, in a
Right.
sense, to the 20-foot setback.
And as far as the garage goes, we are making it more conforming, and I'm not even sure that you need a variance when you do that. But what happened with the building department, because we're reorienting in the garage, now it gets longer on the property line. They were not comfortable with saying we could do that, which I
just
agree.
It just doesn't seem like a garage to me. It may be a garage now, and we'll look at the plans, it seems like an open space, but what you're creating does not seem like a garage. You in fact have a demarcation in the new plans for a very small area of this relocated structure, calling it a garage. The rest is called a playroom, a utility room, a
I'm going to
bathroom.
let the architect talk
So,
to you about
you know,
I
that.
have some questions for him.
Yes,
so-
you're right. So Drew, you want to?
So back to my first question.
I think I know what it is.
Was, do you have
Can we just get your
existing
name?
conditions plan?
State your
record.
name.
Drew Craven.
Yeah, so that's the question. Do you have an existing condition floor plan?
We do not.
Can you get us one?
Yes. I mean, it's a big empty room. I mean, let's see. I guess explaining it wouldn't suffice for our purposes right now, but yes, we can get you
Or like, yeah,
an existing plan, yes.
So right now, you come in off of South Main Street and you drive directly into, are there garage doors on the face of the building facing west?
Yes, we have photos showing. Let's see. Here, it's labeled 5. Do you have this document? Do you guys have a copy of it?
could turn it around.
Just put it on the table and
Put it on the
turn it
table,
upside down
Steve.
for us.
Oh,
There you go.
Yeah, we have that.
Thank you.
Yes. So there is a photo of it. There it is.
Yeah, I went to
Yeah,
the
it's a
side,
garage.
so,
Yeah, so, yeah.
Faces west.
the doors face
West.
west, yeah.
When it's done, the doors are going to face south.
Yes.
North.
The doors will face north. For car access,
Otherwise, you're
it
going to
would
have to
face
drive through
north.
the pool to get to the.
Well, yeah, there's going
So
to
is
be,
the building being relocated, the existing building, or is it going to be torn down and a new building
Oh, I
being?
see, that's where the driveway is on the
Located.
north side.
So
Gotta go
this
through the
existing
pool.
building is just going to be
Yeah.
picked up and moved?
Yes.
Put on a new foundation. You're going to be adding septic. You went to health department and all of that.
I couldn't speak to the construction methods of it, but I can say that the plan is to pick it up and move it. We are in the process of compiling documents for that portion of the lot to be approved by the health department.
do you know the size of the garage as it is, the GFA, the gross floor area of it?
1,123 square feet.
1,123?
Sounds correct, yes.
Non-conforming?
It is non-conforming.
That's
So your-
oversized, right?
Your proposed elevations show a different access into the garage. So right now, there's two garage doors located center of the building, and it appears that you're now changing to put access on
That's correct.
the outside. So you are changing the configuration of the building.
Right.
It's not just picking the building up and you are doing changes to the building itself.
Yes, currently there's two barn doors that open in the center, and the owner wished to have two separate, one for a beach car and one for an everyday car, which,
Is the floor of the garage now concrete, or
Yes.
is it a wood floor in there?
a concrete slab.
The whole first floor?
So how many cars can fit in your proposed plan?
Two.
So where we say utility storage, that's for the beach car that,
And the purpose of that area is to park coming off the beach and to throw wet towels and, stuff that you wouldn't want to sort of bring into the house. So it wasn't so much to be occupied at all. It was just to have a utility sink and
Why is the bathroom there for the pool?
just to hop out and use the bathroom quickly without going through the house. There's one powder room on the main level of the house, and
That's not
sandy,
gonna
wet
be
feet.
heated. It's just going to be used in the summertime, like the pool house bathroom will be used in the summertime.
Mhm.
because you have a cabana on the other side, will that have a bathroom in it?
It does.
Two cabanas.
You have two cabanas with bathrooms, and so this is,
There's one bathroom.
yeah, I see
in-
changing storage in a bathroom. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, it would be helpful to have the separate surveys, I guess what we're calling Lot 1 and then whatever we're calling the lot that,
I don't think that's too hard to do.
Yeah.
We can do that for you.
But-
So you want a separate survey package of each lot?
right,
Okay,
yes.
yep,
That would help.
do that for you.
So on the survey, you say proposed cabana. So that's a whole new building, and then there's two wings off of it? The survey shades the two wings.
Yeah, the other thing is a pergola thing, I think, in the middle, isn't it?
It's an
Or is
open
that
air pergola.
There's two little buildings with a
Open air.
pergola connecting them.
The plans say proposed cabana, and it's not clear that it's, see the floor plan that I'm looking at?
So
It's
if we
not
look
sure,
at
it shows seating in that area, so I'm not sure what.
It's
is that a
outdoor
building?
seating, though.
Okay.
It's outdoor seating, it's not fully covered.
There's a bathroom in it?
So the survey isn't necessarily
One
clear.
side is the bathroom changing, on the other side.
Survey appears, it looks like it's a
Bathroom in the
building.
garage. One of them is a bathroom in the garage.
Well, it's starting to look like that duck.
But Tim, you need floor area calculations and coverage on all these structures?
I think that was part of, wasn't that in the breakdown?
Yes.
No, but in the breakdown that Aaron did, that I gave them, that sheet.
Yes, that should be included.
It's Benjamin?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, your name is Benjamin?
No, I'm Drew.
Oh, you're Drew, so who's Benjamin?
Oh, he's from the general contractor.
Oh, okay, so he's the GC, so.
I think that breakdown that we gave you, that I submitted as an exhibit, shows all the square footages for those.
Should be on the survey, though, the coverage.
Okay.
I mean, he talks about general, an overall calculation, but I'm not sure, particularly since that plan you submitted, it looks like a lot line, as the proposed property line, and I don't know if the calculation is for which lot.
Okay, so what I'll provide you is separate surveys with coverage breakdowns for each thing on each separate lot. So it'll be clear what we're doing.
I mean, my overall impression, and we'll have time to talk about it, you're working here with a 73,000 square foot lot. And you're working with a lot that's 160 feet wide. And you still are designing a site plan that requires several side yard variances. And I would question or wonder, is that really necessary? I mean, isn't there a site plan that you could develop that doesn't require side yard variances on a 160-foot wide lot when you're putting in a brand-new pool?
Well, aside from the comments about the proposed lot line modification, one nice feature about this lot is the length of it and the site from the house. And so we distanced the buildings apart so that the back of the house was not obstructed by these buildings, so that you could see the length of the large lawn in the back.
Yeah. No,
I understand that, but I mean, it appears that you could put the cabana at the east end of the pool, and it would be conforming.
Well, again,
Yeah,
the goal is to keep as much open sight lines to the backyard as possible.
That's fair too, but yeah, I mean, it's a 465-foot deep lot. I mean, you could move the pool over. I don't mean to design the project. I'm far from it, but I understand keeping an open backyard, but you still have a 160-foot wide lot. You could slide the pool over, put it closer to the house. I mean, you also have this lawn area with planters. I mean, it's probably a beautiful, exquisite design, but it's calling for using, more buildable lot than zoning requires, and it doesn't necessarily seem that
But on the other
couldn't work
hand, we are
around that.
reducing the nonconformity. Square
Yes.
footage-wise, we are.
You're going to have to do that
Right.
anyway to get at the back lot. Right?
What's that? No, we're talking about I think we're talking about the pool house now, right? Not the garage.
It's really a combination. It's the idea that, well, first, the pool house or this pool house garage is oversized, but, and you're relocating it, but then you're still calling for side yard variances for a brand-new cabana on the south side, even though you're putting in a brand-new pool. It doesn't seem to me like too much of a challenge working with a 160-foot wide lot to conform with zoning. So it's not, I don't see any, any immediate need. I don't see any,
Okay. But also,
challenge for an architect
as
to come
far
up
as the
with a plan
garage
that-
goes, the idea was not to put the garage plump in the middle of the view off the back of the house. That was the.
I understand the garage, you
and-
gotta move it
yeah.
because of the flag lot anyway.
Right, and the other thing is, keep in mind that that flag lot is another 20 feet, okay, to what is St. John's Episcopal Church, which is next door.
That's going to be a driveway at some point that has to
Yeah.
be shared by both that and the back lot, though.
Yes. But what I'm saying is, that's another 20 feet on top of what we're already doing, which is, it's not,
I don't have as much problem with moving the barn to where you want to move it because of the subdivision and the lot line. But I take Mark's point of you're building this whole pool. It looks like there's masonry feature between the garage and the pool, and then there's the pool, and then there's the pool house. So, I mean, you made it convenient to, you know,
Is the
then to
pool
want
ha-
relief on that side of the property.
so you want us to rework the pool cabana and see if we can
I
make it
just think
fit?
that, you know, that you could show where that could comply, you know, it's a,
Okay.
Well, to add to that, the landscape architect for the project, as you know, the pool enclosure, it will need to be enclosed around the entirety of it with a fence or a wall. So the path between the building and the pool will serve as that pool enclosure without it obstructing the view to the backyard. So we've created a gap.
no,
down
I
the axis of the
understand
house.
what, you know, I mean, if everybody had the choice, they'd move all their stuff to the sides of the.
And have a big open vista.
Yeah, everybody would want to do that. That, might as well eliminate setbacks. Setbacks are put there to give the building envelope, give space between you and your neighbors for equipment to operate around. It's, you know,
But
there's a purpose for it.
Yeah, but I think I'm not disputing what you're saying, but what I'd like you to consider is that we already have an encroaching, and it seems not to be harming anybody, that it's been encroaching there for a long time.
No, it's attractive. It's attractive from the street. It's an attractive structure. Moving it also when you're not reducing its size, you know, is a little bit problematic for me, you know, because it's oversized according to the code.
Well, we're talking about the garage now?
Yes.
But the garage was allowed to be built there. I know that if it came today with a new garage, I wouldn't get this size garage.
Right.
I understand that.
I'm not sure that by basically replacing it and moving it, you automatically sustain the oversized feature of it. It would be nice to see a plan where it conforms with current zoning with respect to size. Do you need 1,100 square feet for that structure?
Well,
I understand that it is what you have now, but it's not as if it's grandfathered
yeah,
once it's moved,
I think it is anyway. As long-
if it stays there.
No, I think in the declarations that the planning board entered into too as well, said move it to a conforming location. So they understood that we would be moving it. And like I said from the very
Okay,
beginning,
we
we're not
just-
meeting all the
yeah.
zoning, but, I mean, there's no way this garage is getting demolished. I don't think, anyway.
moving it?
I'm not the applicant, and I don't
And by
make
the
that
way,
decision, but.
you just submitted the declarations. We didn't have it for our work session, so I don't know what they say, but I'll read them.
No, that's why I gave them to you. I expect you would. And they're in order. Newest down to the bottom being the oldest. All right, that's all I have for tonight, unless you have more questions of the architect.
Wayne, you got anything?
There's a lot of information that we have to both
We'll probably
digest,
have
and I
more.
think Tim has to get some more
Yeah,
information.
well,
to
so
us.
I need to get a survey, single separate survey of each one with the lot coverages, all the setbacks.
We need a copy of the floor plans and
And we-
elevations for the garage when it was originally built.
Correct. And I think I have,
The 1988.
yeah, I think I have those from the building department. I just have to look and see what the plans show. But I'm almost positive I saw them. So that's easy. But like I say, when they did that from the thumb drive, they did it and it came out like massive. So I got to get it reduced down.
If you have some paperwork or some documentation on how the tennis court,
Oh, yes, yes, I know that's a big issue.
okay.
Is there anyone from the audience who'd like to refer to this application? We're going to adjourn for all purposes.
Okay, September 17th, you said, is that the date?
17th is the work session.
Oh, we don't want the work session.
Normal session will be the 26th,
The 26th? Okay.
the fourth Thursday in September. Can I have a motion to adjourn for all purposes?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
I didn't think it was going
Good
to
to
be
see
that
you.
long.
You got to point that at it. Go. Keep it brief.
I'm hoping for the smallest variance in history. I have little plans, but you guys I submitted them as well. If you want me to hand them up, I can. They're the same as what's in the file. If it's easier, whatever works.
That's new information?
Same exactly as in the file.
On the application of case number 3051, Stephen and Leman Marquardt, 27 Cooper Street. For the applicant.
Lisa Zaloga, architect for the applicant, Stephen and Leanne. Would you like little sets or little baby sets, or do you want to pull them out of the file?
What's that?
Same
have
exact plans. You have them? Okay. So this is a pre-existing non-conforming lot with a pre-existing residence on it. We have an open building permit to construct a 1.5-story addition to this house. So this house, you can see on the survey, it is slightly askew on the property, and the property, of course, is very narrow. When we got our building permit, it was prior to several of the code changes that have happened. So at the time, we were under our gross floor area, but gross floor area did not include the pool house. Now that they've reduced the size, the gross floor area, and they have added in pool houses, we would actually be over our gross floor area if I were trying to get a building permit for today. But as I said, I have a open building permit. For the exact same square footage. I'm not asking to change any square footage. I'm not asking to change the footprint. My entire variance is based on a little bit of existing roof that I would like to modify. So if you look at the elevations that I gave you.
I'm still a little confused.
Go for it.
So you got a building permit for 1- and 2-story additions, rear screen porch with balcony, interior alterations, and addition to detached garage.
Correct.
There's no building permit for the proposed pool house.
Pool house was a separate building permit. It is already finished.
Did you give us a copy of that or no?
I do not believe I did. It had nothing to do with this, but I can certainly give it to you.
I think you should provide, do you have a certificate of compliance for that?
I'm not 100% sure, but I can certainly give you the building permit. I believe we have the certificate of compliance at this time. We were waiting for health department, but I believe we have it. Either way, I'll give you either the open building permit or the certificate of compliance.
Just want to make sure. When you said everything was excluded or otherwise in the GFA,
Absolutely.
I want to make sure because that wasn't part of the building permit.
Right, that was, we've done
you
this in
submit.
stages, and the pool house was the first one, and that was a separate building permit in and of itself. So I wasn't even thinking about that one, but yes, I can get it for you.
So now you're proposing changes to this open building permit?
Correct,
But just for the roof line?
just for the roof line. So what,
You want to raise the ridge and put like a jerkin hip instead of...
correct. So I want to give back a little bit that is non-conforming within the pyramid law that's closest to the side yards, but I want to raise the middle section. So you can see on the elevation here, the dotted in areas are the areas that I'm giving back, and the dark areas are the areas that I want to take. And it's, I have my numbers. It's a total, let's see, it's 7.9 cubic feet increase on the west side and 29 cubic feet on the east side, to a total of 36.9 cubic feet worth of change.
So it's not really living area either, it's just...
Not living area. It does not change the footprint. It doesn't change the gross floor area. All it does is change that roof line for the existing portion of the house.
Have you been to the ARB on?
Obviously, I have ARB for the original. I have not been back to the ARB. I figured I wanted to hit you guys first. I think it helps because, you know, the way that it was already approved, the middle section, because I had to conform to the pyramid law, you know, it was a lot bigger than the existing house. And I think by, because I also shortened or lowered the roof pitch in the middle section, and bringing up that existing roof line, it kind of equals them out a little bit so that it doesn't look kind of like the addition ate the house.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So it's over an existing roof line, correct?
Mhm.
And you're not going to exceed the height
No.
of zoning? Didn't Lucy just say that you don't need a variance for that?
Okay, so, and she's correct, there is a code. What it says, though, is that as long as you don't go higher than the existing house.
Right.
So my addition is going higher than my existing house. If my addition was not going higher than my existing house, then I could build within that pyramid law. But because my addition is taller than the existing house, then I have to conform.
So even though it's over an existing part of the house that conforms, just because the addition is higher than?
Correct. So the addition has to conform to the pyramid because it's taller than the existing house. My existing house is only like 26.5 feet high.
Okay.
So I couldn't build my addition that low. So because I had to go higher, then I had to conform. But now I'm messing with the existing section that is within that, you know, within that pyramid already.
Doesn't seem crazy.
I said, smallest variance you've ever issued.
Can I just ask one question on the
Sure.
garage? You have a building permit for the garage. The garage is located in a non-conforming area. Is the setback for the addition complying?
Well, that's part of that variance. You can see that, again, when I got the building permit, you did not have a minimum side yard of 15 feet. So my addition conformed at the time that I got the open building permit. Now, because I want to modify that little bit of roof, I asked you, I wasn't 100% sure whether I needed it or not, but I asked you for the side yard variances to work to 11.1 feet, because that's where my roof line modification would happen, and 11.8 feet off of the property line. And again, because the house is skewed to the property, I chose the worst case, but as I move back on the house, that disappears, because by the time I get here, I'm 16 feet off. So I chose the worst case number, but it's actually a diminishing number as the house, you know, changes. So.
Let's get back to this garage for a minute.
Okay.
Pre-existing non-conforming, and you're going to add on to it.
I've already added on to it. I've already built that.
What about about 50%?
Because my addition was in a conforming location.
That was
My
question.
addition to the garage was in
That
a
was
conforming
actually my
location.
question.
Yeah.
You have to get
Doesn't
relief.
show the setbacks. So that's why I was asking.
Yeah,
Is-
the
location
addition
then.
to the garage
Adding on to
was
a
conforming.
pre-existing
So that's 10 feet.
non-conforming.
But if it's in a conforming location,
You can add on to a non-conforming structure if you're adding in a conforming location.
and the square footage is below
Yes, absolutely.
It's below what?
Below the minimum, the 520
minimum for
square
an
feet.
accessory structure.
And again, that's already constructed. We've already done that as part of our building permit, but yes.
Did the GFA law grandfather properties that had building permits issued by its
Prior to-
terms?
Yes.
That
If you had an,
was in the
yes, you had to have a
provision?
building
If you
permit.
had no building permit, it
Prior
was
to
grandfathered.
August 1st of that year.
I was well before, I mean, I was well before that.
Village board saw that there was a need to have a grandfathered period.
Is that a pacemaker?
My 4 daughters and my oldest granddaughter are constantly texting. Constantly.
Kind
It
of
goes on 24 hours a day. If I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I think I'm a game.
They want to talk
Ask
to
me if they
you.
had jobs. They all had jobs.
So that's my, and the difference in height is 16 inches. I mean, if you care, but I mean, that's the difference in height. But again, the addition is further in, away from the property lines, and I'm giving back what's close to the property lines.
I don't have a problem with it. I don't know how everybody else feels.
Smallest variance in history.
No, I thought about the garage, but evidently I was wrong about the garage, so
No.
takes care of that. You put this in your pocket?
Any questions?
I'm good with it.
I'm good. You want to see if anybody in the audience,
I will. Wayne?
as soon as you
anything
answer
else?
your...
I have no further questions.
Is there anyone out in the audience like to heard of this application? No. Well, we're all good with it, right?
Yes.
Get rid of it.
Sure.
Close for a decision?
Close for decision is fine.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Okay.
One more.
Brings us to case 3052 and 3053, which are really the same case. 259 South Main Street Revocable Trust, 259 South Main Street for both of them.
I'm Rebecca Brown from Aris Design.
That's,
So, I submitted after the work session the submission I gave to the town trustees for the dock and the water depths for the survey. So I have that as well.
yeah. 3053.
So
Get the posting? No, I got it in my hand.
the amended wetland special permit was for the amended as-built dry wells, the difference in location, and the wall.
Rebecca, when was the original permit issue?
I believe it was 2015.
And what was that for?
You have a copy of the decision and the original wetland conditions.
I think it'd be helpful if you just describe it on the plan. What was that original permit for? Yeah.
So the original permit, I believe, were for the wetland buffer, which gave more buffer than was originally there to do the add-ons to the building, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Okay.
I think the point is the original permit issued in 2015, demolition of portion of the existing structure, construction of an attached garage, construction of an addition.
The deck.
And we're basically abandoning the existing sanitary system.
Correct.
Putting a new system, and there was a condition for a 25-foot vegetated buffer.
Correct. So that 25-foot buffer is there, and there was an addition to that 25-foot buffer to increase the buffer. And that has been implemented. That buffer has now been implemented.
So what are you asking for today?
So The first was just the amendments for the location. In the original were the locations of where the dry wells were going to be for the roof runoff. And those dry wells were not put where they originally were, which are on this document, and they are highlighted in blue here, as well as an as-built wall. And you can see where it comes all the way across, which was removed, and the darkened portion is what remains.
So you're asking to amend the permit to add those structures and...
Well, for
to
the
acknow-
different location of the dry wells and to add that structure. Okay.
And then there was this, the second request was for the dock?
Yes, so the second is for the dock. So in the original permit is the language for the dock location, as well as on the original wetland buffer, it shows the location of the dock. But there was no language as to its size, what it was made of.
We didn't consider it part of that original
Right.
plan.
So I have done, we have done a new wetland permit for the dock.
Have you been before the town trustees and got approval yet?
No, so I submitted that. I think I'm going to have to call them a few times to make sure they push it along. And you had mentioned at the work session that this permit probably would ride on what their decision was. So if I misunderstood, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That's
this
kind of
board
what I
issues
understood.
a separate permit, but ultimately we want the permits to be consistent.
Correct. So, yeah, when I called them to see how it was coming along, they hadn't said yet. So I'm going to have to push that along.
So do you think you'll get any input from the town trustees before
Your next session?
work session?
I would love to. I'll just walk over there every day and help them. But yeah, I can make a phone call and find out what they're...
Because as what Mr. Voorhees said, that we like to have our permits consistent and have both agencies
Right.
do the same thing, so we don't want to necessarily have us approve something and then
Absolutely.
you got to
Right.
get a different decision from the trustees and then come back to us. So if you can let Chick know one way or another by the work session, that would be helpful.
I can do that. Do you have any questions?
You need a variance for that timber frame construction wall to remain? That's not a fence. That's a,
You need a zoning variance. You need a zoning variance as opposed to
Well,
a
that's what she
wetland
said.
permit?
yeah, I don't know. In other words, it said, on here, it says, section of timber retaining wall installed during construction to remain. So during construction, they built this for some purpose, and now they want to leave it.
That was going to be my question. I did go to the site. Steve Lemansky asked me to come out when this occurred, and I said, you need a modification of the permit, and it has to come before the board. So maybe Rebecca can explain what happened in the field, why it went in, and why that section that remains is needed. Because when I looked at the topography from the original permit, it doesn't look like the topography changes. So if you could explain why it's needed, I think that would be helpful, at least to me.
So I was I was not a part of this project until after all of that was completed. So the way that I look at it, the elevation at the pool is 16. And so I guess in adding the deck and wrapping around the grading, I guess it came up, and to take away that wall would cause some runoff issues into the neighbor's property. So I'm looking out for which way the water's going, and
Looks to me like the water is directed west toward Lake Agawam.
So,
The pool is distant from the retaining wall that we're talking about, so I'm not sure if I understand
Yeah, I
that.
need like a topographical or something, a layout to,
The topography is here, and it's interesting, because the 11, 12, and 13, it shows the lines going right through the retaining wall. So I don't see any change in grade reflected on the plans. Is there a change of grade? I remember looking at it, but again, I think the plans need to be updated to show that. I don't know if we need a cross-section or modify those contour lines on each side of the wall so it reflects what's really going on in the field.
so Chick, was this wall built like without a permit during
No.
construction or?
No, the pool was existing.
I mean the wall.
the wall.
Oh, the wall, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the wall.
So
I
we
mean,
don't have a plan for the wall, we don't know what it's made out of, we don't know.
I told Steve, to me, it was a technical violation, and that if you haven't received any enforcement notification, come to the board and let's work it out there, but you have to issue a modification of the original permit. So I guess it's fortuitous that they're coming in with the dock at this time. That doesn't seem like a big deal, but I do have a couple of minor questions. And all we know is what we see on the plan. It says timber retaining wall was installed, parts being removed, parts remaining. So we don't really know anything more than what I'm seeing on this plan.
You saying that the retaining wall is somehow retaining the stormwater runoff from this property onto the
So-
property to the north?
So,
Because it's not,
That's what you said
it's
before.
not
Right,
reflective
right.
of what the grade is showing.
right, so the roof and the additions, and they are putting on, because obviously there was roof runoff calculations for those dry wells that were approved. So there are gutters being installed right now. The water that, when it comes off the roof, your deck, that second-story deck, and you've got water that's coming off the roof that has yet to be
Does it
caught.
go into those dry wells?
It is going to be going into those dry wells.
Right. So
Scheduled to be
So we're just having
roof
trouble with the
leaders.
purpose of the wall is, that.
It was.
What it's made
right.
out of, what-
It's timber,
Yeah.
6x6.
Did they
The
put
dead
them
man-
3 feet into the ground in concrete, and then would they clad them with, if it wasn't permitted, there's no plan, so, and then if we're getting a variance for that, then you're gonna have to get a permit for it, after the fact permit for it,
It isn't needed.
or an as-built.
Removing a section of it.
Right.
Can more be removed? Is it needed for the driveway? Again, I looked at the original plan, and the driveway was in the same location and no wall was proposed. And it looks like the contours aren't changing based on the plan. So I think we need to understand
And
what
if
the
it did need a
purpose is.
wall, maybe a timber frame wall wouldn't have been the appropriate wall. Maybe, some type of rock or stone or masonry, more information.
Okay.
I recommend that maybe Chick go out there and find out, maybe there's something that is not shown exactly on the plan, particularly where stormwater runoff is going in that location, if that was the
It
original
will-
purpose.
I don't know if they have the CO for the house. I know that the health inspector came out. It's all underground, the sanitary. So I don't know on that side of things where things are. But I do know that there are roof leaders going on the house to solve that problem. We put
So that
dry
may-
wells in for a reason.
So you may not need the retaining wall on the north then, if you put a dry well in that location, so.
Potential.
So I'd suggest that you set up a meeting and maybe Chick can go out there and you can see what the need is.
Okay. Chick, do you want Steve Lemansky to be there as well?
It doesn't really matter. I mean, if you can offer information that would be useful, that's fine. I can meet you out there.
Okay.
It'll probably be the week before the work session. But I'll get a hold of you. And then on on the dock, I was just a little confused. First of all,
Yes.
it looks like a pretty minor structure. It's not using treated wood. I want to confirm that it does not involve a float. It's
No.
just a fixed, elevated
Yes.
catwalk dock. And there are two plans, but they're both labeled DP1. And one has soundings and is more typical of what I would see for a dock plan.
Yes.
And the other is part of this, it's the
Right.
second sheet of this
So-
package.
Right, so
So tell us which one
I
we're looking at.
submitted, well, so I submitted this to you. The survey was done after I submitted to you.
Yeah.
So hence why I turned these in. It says DP1 because this is the same thing, just broken up, because the town requires it on 11 by 17 to scale. Okay, so yes, I don't have, on this original, I don't have the soundings.
Right.
Okay, but that's what this is. So,
They're identical otherwise.
yes.
And what are the, I guess, elongated lines that are on the plan along the shoreline?
Right, so those are the actual as-built core logs.
Okay.
Okay, and they do, if you look at the original, I'm probably offering more information. I'm just really proud of this project, sorry. If you look at the original wetland buffer, since 2015, it's changed a lot. And so we did core logs, and they go all the way to the property line on this side. He
And was
just
that a change from the original plan?
They are at the water's edge and then also at the base of the slope of the existing
And I
slope.
seem to remember that they were part of the original plan.
Yes, they were part of the original plan.
Were they modified in the field at the time of installation?
To the water's
Reflect
edge?
the revised
Yeah.
condition?
Yeah,
So these plans, once, assuming they
and
are approved, would supersede the original and they would conform to the as-built.
correct. And also, which I don't think is in the original, it is maybe mentioned, but it's not, is the existing bulkhead, and I'm not sure if that goes to the neighbor's property. But it kind of comes off the coast onto existing.
That's this notation here? On the
Yes.
south side?
Yeah. So those are things that weren't on the original.
I would recommend that the core logs be labeled, just so that it's a little more clear, and since it is a change from the original. And then that maybe we just have one plan, whichever one you prefer, that shows the
I
dock.
can modify this sheet with the soundings if that would be beneficial.
It's fine with us. We don't need it 11 by 17.
Right.
And I'd rather have consistent plans and
Can you all
not
get
two separate
consistent?
DP1s.
The town, the village, that would be lovely. Sure.
We can accept the ones that the town approves as well, but again, I just don't want two separate DP1s.
Sure.
And there's also a detail sheet in the 11 by 17 package, but I saw that information on the large scale DP2. I'm sorry, DP1. In other words,
Yes, because originally
all
this
that
was all one.
information you have on separate sheets for the town
But
is
that's
on
what they
one sheet.
require.
I know.
It's,
Whichever you prefer, we're comfortable with.
I will give it to you. Well, do you want it at 16 or 10 scale? I prefer 10.
I like engineer scales, not architect scales. No, this
All right,
is-
I've
this
already
scale-
gotten
this-
yelled at.
This scale is fine.
Okay. So
You guys are going to meet and get more information? And
for the amendment permit?
We're going to meet
Yeah.
to go over that retaining wall.
Right.
And
the
then-
rest, are just
This is, I'm
modifications to
going to
the
work
plan
to
and
move the
labeling.
town along and
Good.
find out what their timeline is. And I'll
So
visit
Chip, if
Jackie
you
and
get-
Diane and let them know.
All the documentation, would you feel comfortable by the work session that you might be able to issue a permit?
Well, I'm hearing, and I also have questions on that retaining wall. So I think a lot will depend on what we come up with and the need for it, and if the board is comfortable with that. I mean, they're removing part of it, and I want to know, is it?
I think the board
is it
needs
easy?
to hear that, so
Keep it
we keep it open for all purposes, but maybe
I
at
can't
the
say
work
if I'd be
session, if
comfortable with it at this
if we
time.
get the information, maybe the board could
Yeah.
then
That gives us the
consider it
leeway.
and still be ready for a permit anyway.
Is there anyone out in the audience who would like to be heard of this application? Therefore, we're going to adjourn this to all purposes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
And one motion to close this session of the August 2019 Zoning Board of Appeals, Southampton Village.
Hold on, Kevin.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you want that? Yeah. I move we approve the minutes as you all were emailed.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye. Now
Now
you got to close it.
we just closed it. You want to close it again?
Sure.
The August 2019 meeting of the Southampton Village Zoning Board of Appeals is closed.